Martial World Teyvat Chapter 55, Fantasy Fiction by Azazyel. Waking up, I realized two important things. One, that naked Keqing was still the best thing ever since sliced bread. And two, I had literally no fucking idea where we were. After what felt like nuding my entire existence into Keqing's depths as we traded vital yin and yang, I had fallen into a deep sleep. And now it looked like we were inside of an entirely different room. 1. Which wasn't Chinese in design at all. It only took me looking around for a literal minute to realize where I was, though. The fucking electro symbol of 3 purple tomo swirling around one another embossed over the door leading from the Spartan yet tastefully furnished room. Keqing, wake up, I said gently as I shook her slightly, making her groan with her holding me tightly as she hissed out. Still busy with my breakthrough, Jake. I can't move much. My lips curled at the thought of Keqing breaking through the 3rd stage of martial arts she had been stuck within. So I just kept silent. As me making her freak out would help no one. She needed to focus on her breakthrough as it could be the key to us escaping. If escape was even an option anyway. I gently extracted myself from Keqing's form, who frowned but slowly sat up and took a meditative position so she could continue her breakthrough in a better, more comfortable position. Then I moved to the door and opened it. My eyes widened as bright light hit my eyes and I was welcomed to the sight of sakura trees in full bloom, swaying in the wind as I looked out from the front porch to a small compound that was surrounded by low walls. It's certainly beautiful at least. I thought sardonically as I took in the rock gardens, the small bonsai trees, and in the center of the large open compound was a small series of 3 ponds that were created in the shape of the electro symbol of 3 tomo. Taking in the sights, I could see a large mountain in the distance past the low compound walls and the gate, and within the pond were 3 different types of small fish that were swimming about in their enclosed ecosystem. These fish are trapped just as much as I am. I thought with some dry amusement before my nose twitched as I caught that same smell of cherries I had caught in Liyue. I looked around and my lips curled as I saw my target sitting on the roof of the house I was previously within. Both of the ladies were all but lying lazily across the roof with their foxtails swaying in the wind as they looked at me like the devious kitsune they were. Ye Miko and Kitsune Saigu. To what do I owe the pleasure of this vacation you have brought me to Inazuma for? I called out bluntly. Ye Miko hopped off the roof, landing on a cobblestone path with a soft clatter of her wooden sandals landing softly on the stone walkway, with Kitsune Saigu more elegantly floating downwards, making my lips curl at the reality before me. Both Ye Miko and Kitsune Saigu were at least tier 4 cultivators, obviously. With Kitsune Saigu being several millennia old, I wouldn't be surprised if she were actually tier 5 in the divine levels of power. So I took a breath as Kitsune Saigu smiled disarmingly as she spoke calmly. I am glad that you are so calm, Jake. The Raiden Shogun herself doesn't want any bad blood between you and Inazuma. We just decided to skip the waiting line to get to your wonderful factories. My lips curled, and I considered things for a hot moment. Was bitching about being kidnapped going to do anything good for me? They are literally kitsune who love drama, and not to mention, they are cultivators who worry about themselves more than anything. Honestly, I should be glad that my ass wasn't kidnapped by some dark or evil sect that would try to melt me down to absorb my special physique. But I still said evenly. To say nothing of Liyue's reaction to my kidnapping, Snezhnahaya won't be happy with you skipping the line as it were. Ye Miko giggled and said with the very kitsune-like attitude I was expecting, as she said shamelessly. Your single main protector in Yelan got dragged into a fight with Jean Gunhildr and Araraki no Ha. We didn't even really need to instigate the fight with how much Yelan hates Snezhnahaya, and Jean just pulled into the flow due to the large battle. Kitsune Saigu sums up Ye Miko's statement with her saying. For such a golden goose. The protection around was rather lacking, honestly, but either way, we have diverged from the topic. I nodded and then said calmly. Yes, we did. Now, seeing as my deal with Snezhnahaya has fallen through and I will be building for you, I imagine, I want 30 martial art cultivation manuals for myself in the gold, metal alignment, and 15 for my wife Keqing, that's lightning-based. Both kitsune blinked, hearing my words, and looked between one another with Ye Miko looking back at me with her flowing pink tails gently swaying in the air as she looked at me with amusement. Ho. Why should we pay you anything? We did capture you after all. I just chuckled and said with utter shamelessness. Oh, it's quite simple, honestly. I indeed hold no ill will towards you for my impromptu vacation. I was already ready to be snatched up to Snezhnaya when Arlecchino kidnapped me at some point, as I already agreed to go with her after she teleported into my house. My levity died abruptly as I stared at the two kitsune. But don't think my agreement to build factories comes without cost. Do not think I am a slave to you just because you have higher cultivation. I know you want me to build a system to improve large-scale food collection, but how difficult do you think it would be for me to make all the food slow-acting poison? The two's faces hardened and I felt their aura readying to squash me like a fucking bug, but I just smiled mirthlessly as I said dryly. One doesn't feed a blacksmith with hope and words in return for a weapon. Nor does one repay a highly skilled alchemist for making an elixir with betrayal after all. At least one that wasn't a complete retard wouldn't do those things. And neither kitsune was a complete fool. So I clapped my hands together and said in a more friendly tone. I have stated my cost for the labor of building the factories. And also, I want to add on that one of your lightning-using martial artists in the 4th level or higher give my wife Keqing helpful pointers to get her used to her new rank. A soft giggle escaped Kitsune Saigu as she looked at me with those slitted yellow eyes, as her white tails with red tips swayed with her amusement. Well, well. I see that you are truly as unflappable as you want to appear. It seems you truly did expect to be kidnapped in any case. I shrugged and admitted frankly. I am too useful with my talents, I am too valuable for attempts not to be made. I would honestly be insulted if such a thing didn't happen, actually. Ye Miko, however, with less levity, asked me more bluntly. So Jake, if given all but unlimited treasure rice seeds, how much could you feasibly make in a month? I gave Yamiko a dry look before I answered bluntly. I have thousands of pills being made automatically from my alchemy production plant. If I were relegated to making a single crop that would simply be consumed as food in a similar-sized factory. I drew off as I did some mental math, as I had looked into growing treasure rice at a smaller scale to feed the martial artists working at my plants. Before they were killed or sent off anyway. An acre of the treasure rice can produce about 1,000 pounds of rice with my facilities, enhanced growing and fertility. Multiply that by 20 for 20 acres, and then by 5 for the factory having 5 growing floors. Going off my previous alchemy factory size, basically for each acre I am looking at around 1,000 pounds of low-grade treasure rice, and with it built in a factory, I could have multiple levels allowing me to multiply that supposed yield per acre per level, I answered after doing the mental math. Ye Miko and Kitsune Saigu just looked at me with dull eyes before I raised an eyebrow and said dryly. I can mass-produce herbs by emulating their entire growth cycle and emulating passing time by microwaving them with spiritual energy in precise amounts. Mass-growing what amounts to the lowest grade herb isn't any issue. It's not like they are asking me to make something like God's tears flowers. I thought thinking of one of the higher-tier herbs that could only grow within the soil where a god had died, and their corpse left behind to meld with the earth. Kitsune Saigu drew a hand across her face before she spoke softly. So this is the stressful joy Ningguang felt all the time. Lucky bitch. But before I could respond to that insult, she smiled wryly and asked with a blank expression. Then Jake, what do you need for this project to be complete? I can have servants bring paper and pens if you need to list everything over a couple of days. I just deadpanned at the kitsune and their lips twitched as I brought out a fat fucking stack of papers that I held out to them with a shameless smile. Nope. I already have everything listed here. I just need the metals listed here, a large area for me to build, and I can start this literally tomorrow if you can have martial artists ready to help me build. But my shameless smile turned evil as I said cunningly. Well. I can build as soon as Keqing finishes her breakthrough, giving you both plenty of time to get my martial arts cultivation manuals. With that, I all but bounced back into my new home away from home, passing by the kitsune with myself calling out with jagged remarks. Oh. By the way, I will be fine on food and water, so don't bother having servants bring any, as being poisoned once was enough.